Alrighty, guys, welcome back to UFC 319 Plessis versus Chimaev. Obviously, a little bit late on production of this video. By a little bit late, I mean last minute, but we did have some canceled fights. Did have some updated odds, so should be a little bit quicker of a breakdown video. Should be a really fun night of fights. We got a lot of high level fights at the top and a lot of really fun prelims with some veterans. So let's get right into it. Opening up, we do not have a prelim of veterans, but we do have the Ultimate Fighter finale from the reality TV series. We got Adirus, definitely butchered that name, taking on Joseph Morales. Adirus sitting at minus 500, coming back on Morales is plus 375. And there's a reason a lot of people are pretty hyped on Adirus, right? This guy is a Kazakhstani striker through and through. You see guys like Asu Almabayev, Shavkat Rakhmonov has a similar style as a lot of those Kazakhstani strikers, right? Very diverse striking attack, a lot of power. Can do spins, can do flying attacks, but does have the wrestling and the grappling in the back pocket. Obviously, his wrestling grappling not as sophisticated as someone like a Stu or Shavkat, but it definitely is there if he's struggling to get it going in the striking. But obviously, as you can see in his record, he hasn't really struggled too much throughout his career. Kind of ran through the Ultimate Fighter house, didn't really have too much resistance. And that's why he's coming here as a big favorite. He's taking on Joseph Morales, former UFC fighter. Joseph Morales, I believe he went 0-2 in the promotion in his first stint a few years back, but that was against a very, very high level of opponents. And the dude is good himself, too, right? He's got okay hands, but the wrestling is really where he wants to kind of dictate the pace. Obviously, as it's mentioned here, he does have jiu-jitsu in the back pocket, too. Good pressure on top. Likes to work ground and pound before really trying to chase submissions. He's coming off that split decision win on the Ultimate Fighter, where a lot of people thought he did not win, including myself, and that is the reason why I'm going to pick Adirus in this fight. He is going to be the far better striker as long as he can keep it on the feet. Obviously, there is a little bit of concern when we're talking about this guy's overall takedown defense, especially against the cage. The technique just isn't really there yet. I do think he can develop into something really good in this division, but this is a good fight for him in terms of he's going to be a lot faster, a lot more powerful than Morales. I think he should, in general, be able to maintain the pace. So I got Adirus. I think it's done by decision. Minus 500, a little bit crazy, but I am confident that he's going to win this fight. All right, next fight at flyweight, we got Karini Silva taking on Diona Barbosa. Silva sitting at minus 190, comeback on Barbosa plus 165. And this is a rematch if you didn't know. Barbosa won the first fight. Now that was a very long time ago, but sort of similar styles from their first fight, right? They're both kind of grapplers. Silva a little bit more not necessarily dangerous, but more aggressive on the ground. Loves to play off her back, loves to go into these scrambles from her guard, leg locks. Likes to throw up triangles and stuff like that. Has a nice guillotine too, but the problem with Silva is that she really got exposed in her last fight. I was high on her against Araujo, and I think many, prospects, you've got to beat Araujo in order to really consider yourself a true threat in this division. And that was just a flat performance from her, right? The striking was basically non-existent. And again, her striking isn't great, but even, especially in that fight, she just didn't show volume at all. Slowed down a lot as the fight went on. And in that third round, he just didn't show any fight in her, right? She was just laying on her back, kind of accepting defeat. And that's not really what you want to see in a fighter, right? I won't be mad at a fighter if they do gas out, but they're constantly trying. They're still trying to scramble and work through it. She just didn't try to scramble or work through it. She was laying on her back, pulling guard. It wasn't a good look, and that's not going to be good against Barbosa because Barbosa is someone that has a lot better top control than Silva. Maybe not as dangerous as Silva, right? The striking, while not as powerful, it definitely is there, right? You see flashes of her striking. It's really good, right? Her ability to kind of maintain range and kind of use the strikes to her success. She knows what fighter she is, and that's why I like in fighters, right? She knows that she's not some dynamic kickboxer, and she won't stay on the feet for as long as she has to, but she will maintain that range. She will pump a nice jab out there, and I think that's going to frustrate Silva into throwing sloppy on the feet and maybe shooting sloppy takedowns. And shooting sloppy takedown against Barbosa is not going to be a good option because she does have that high level judo background. And if you get caught up in a clinch there, that she's probably going down. And as I said before, she does like to play off her back, and that's not going to be good against Barbosa. So I think I am going to take a pick of the underdog of Barbosa here. I just think the athleticism should kind of even out, and I just think she has better control on the ground. That's initially where the fight will probably end up. So, giving Barbosa to win the fight by decision, not crazy confident in her though. It is short notice. All right, move up to lightweight. Edson Barbosa coming back up to lightweight after a short stint at featherweight. He's taking on Jakar Close, another veteran in the UFC. Barbosa sitting at slight minus 130, Close at plus 110. And listen, the thing about Close is he probably does have a lot of the tools to have some success against Barbosa. He might even dominate the first round and a half or such. But I think I don't like about him is the way he reacts to strikes, and especially when this guy is at a speed disadvantage, when he usually is at a speed disadvantage in the striking, he just struggles mightily with just kind of implementing his game plan. And especially in this fight against Barbosa, he's going to be at a huge speed disadvantage. And you saw in that Joel Alvarez fight, right? Again, Barbosa is definitely not at this point in his career not as talented. Well, I wouldn't say as talented, just doesn't have as much gas in the tank as a guy like Joel Alvarez. But every time this guy was getting hit, this guy was getting hurt bad by Alvarez, and it's a dangerous game to play. That striking game for too long against Barbosa. The dude's still fast and powerful, man. This dude has still hurt a lot of people in the past few fights. Honestly, I think his past 3 fights, he's hurt his opponent bad. Even that Lerone Murphy fight, he landed that up kick. Lerone Murphy was wobbly back to the corner. So, as long as Barbosa can avoid kind of getting trapped up against the fence and kind of just held up against the fence, and obviously, right, the durability isn't great, but I think the reduced cut to lightweight is going to definitely help him here. At featherweight, he just seemed absolutely drained and just like he just could not take a punch to save his life. So I think it's going to look a lot better coming back up to lightweight. And I think it's kind of a showcase fight for him. I think he can dominate the striking, maybe even find a finish. I do have Barbosa winning this fight by a second round knockout, but obviously Close does have that style where he definitely could put a beating on Barbosa if he's able to stay focused and maintain that pace for 3 rounds. All right, moving up to another lightweight fight, we got Chase Hooper taking on Alexander Hernandez. Chase Hooper, very highly touted favorite, minus 340. Alexander Hernandez, plus 280. And, originally Hernandez was in Chase Hooper's spot. He was at one point a very highly touted prospect. And much like Chase Hooper, he was kind of rushed up a little bit too soon. Now, the difference is that Hooper has since kind of rebounded since those couple losses down at featherweight, reinvented himself at lightweight, and has since gone on a tear. And Hernandez just never really recovered from that Cowboy Cerrone loss. He was bouncing up and down weight classes, never really found his groove, never really found his striking, or not his striking, but his kind of fight style that he's really wanted to. And that's going to be an issue against Hooper because Hooper, despite having some deficiencies, in the wrestling and in the striking, he used to be a really bad thing in the striking, but you can see every fight this guy's getting a lot better, and he just knows what kind of fighter he is. He wants to get out there, be super aggressive, does want to get to the clinch, and eventually get to the grappling. And this guy on the ground is an absolute beast. So, obviously Hernandez definitely does have the skills, and he's always had the skills to be a tough fight for anyone in this division. But just the recent performances and just the track record of inconsistency from him, I got to go Hooper in this fight. I just think the overall aggressiveness and the tenacity from Hooper is going to get this done. I got him by submission here, by third round submission. But again, Hernandez is a good fighter. He could definitely sneak one out here. All right, moving on to strawweight ranked fight. We got Jessica Andrade taking on Lupita Godinez. Lupi sitting at minus 130. Come back on Andrade is plus 110. Listen, Lupi is a good fighter, right? And she could beat a lot of people in this weight class, but there's a reason she's ranked 11th because she's constantly just falling short and given these opportunities against the higher ranked people. That's not to say Andrade hasn't struggled recently because she's lost 2 in a row, right? And she just looks like, I don't know, maybe out of these fights, right? She kind of gets taken down and just not really gives up, but like just finds her way out of these fights, right? But her last 2 wins were both at strawweight. She has on a 2-fight win streak at strawweight. So, I think she should stay at strawweight, move down to strawweight. It's a great idea for her. And I think the biggest advantage for Andrade is going to be the size equality here, right? She usually set a major size disadvantage. And we saw even in the Marina Rodriguez fight, she was able to negate that disadvantage she had. Constant pressure, that cardio looked good, the power was on point, and against Lupi, she has been hurt a couple times. She got hurt bad last fight, so I think Andrade, as long as she maintains her P's and Q's on the ground, and if it even gets to the ground, because I do think with that size, she can definitely defend a lot of takedowns. I gotta go Andrade in this fight. I think I could trust her in this spot to defend those takedowns. And I think on the feet, right, Lupi does have that boxing, but Andrade just will just split right through that guard. Big power in her hands. Obviously, the durability is a big concern, but when you have that power, that equalizer, I think it kind of evens out. So I'm going Andrade here to get it done by decision, but again, it's hard to trust her at this point in her career. It seems like she's just out for the paycheck, but I do think this is a very winnable fight for her. All right, moving on, middleweight fight. We got Jerro Mearshart taking on McCall Sachuk. Mearshart is the underdog, plus 165. Aleksandar, the favorite at minus 190. And listen, this fight is either going to go one or two ways. There's almost certainly Mearshart's going to get hurt right because this guy, it used to just be a bad striker, but I feel like over the years it's gotten even worse. Right, the reaction time just doesn't look great for him. When he's striking and when he's on the feet, and we've seen that in his past couple fights in the RDR fight where he just was slow, slow, slow. He was getting caught in the end of combinations, and Oleg Zajic is a far better striker than what he's been facing recently. He's still struggling a lot with these guys, so I think Oleg Zajic is going to be able to definitely find that chin of Mearshart, hurt this guy early in this fight, and it's the only thing he's got to worry about is the ground, right? And we've seen Aleksandar be a fish out of water on the ground. So as long as he avoids that and just working on his takedown defense and make sure he doesn't get taken down, again, trading at fight nerds, I know that doesn't make you a world killer, but they can certainly improve some aspects of your game. And, he looked great his last fight. Again, just kind of ran through Dumas, who sucks, but, I do trust Aleksandar to defend these takedowns. And, as I said, on the feet, there's going to be a huge advantage for him. So give me Aleksandar by knockout here. Obviously, this could be the most Jerro Mearshart performance ever, but I do think that Aleksandar is going to pull this one out here. All right, moving on to the middleweight. This is one of the newer fights added. Singer Susakayv. This guy debuted on the Dana White Contender Series this Tuesday and is immediately going to call up to the UFC against Eric Nolan, CFFC champion at welterweight division. That is pretty big as he's moving up a weight class here. And the odds reflect that. Susakayv is sitting at minus 1,200, or I guess 1,200. Come back on Nolan is plus 750. And listen, it's not out of the question that Nolan is able to find a shot on him because, Nolan does have power, and I am a little bit concerned about the two weight cuts this week for Susakayv. He did need the box for Tuesday. He didn't need the box for this week, for this weight cut, which is weird, but I gotta imagine that weight cut does kind of take a toll on someone. But in terms of like skill for skill, if we look at it as from a neutral perspective, Susakaya should have the advantage pretty much everywhere. Show great takedown defense against Taha, and on the feet, this guy's super fast, explosive striker, lots of power. Just a very overall diverse striker that really knows how to use his strikes. Right, we saw him set up that teep kick knockout against Taha with lots of rangy strikes and punches. Loves that flying knee too, so we could see something like that in this fight with that height and reach advantage. But the pick's just got to be Susakayv here to get it done by first round knockout. The odds replicate that. He should get it done early in this fight, but don't count out Nolan. This guy, isn't a bum. You may see his record and think, oh, this guy's not very good. He is good. It's just the moving up in weight and the short notice isn't really going to play into him. So give me Susakayv by first round knockout. All right, main card time. We got Tim Elliott taking on Kai Asakura. Asakura minus 280 for a second UFC fight. Elliott, after a 2-year layoff, is sitting at plus 240. And listen, I mean, people want to trash Kai Asakura, right? As he come in, first title fight against Pantoja, and he kind of gets smoked there, right? He had some moments, right? But Pantoja, all in all, just kind of ran through him. But that's Pantoja, and I all the respect in the world to Tim Elliott because he's a fun guy and he's been a staple of this flyweight division. But Tim Elliott is not Aleksandar Pantoja, so. I think Asakura, even if he does get taken down, he showed a good ability to work back to his feet. I don't think Elliott has that sort of back take, that quick back take that Pantoja has. And, on the feet, I am very worried about Elliott's speed, because he is coming off of a bunch of knee surgeries. Just, the weird striking. But I think Asakura should be the far more powerful a more accurate striker. And obviously I am a bit. Tim Elliott's not a guy that just gets like knocked down. He honestly, I feel like he hasn't been knocked down almost barely in his UFC career. The guy's got really good durability, but Asakura is a different sort of power in this division. So obviously, once he does chest that chin, we'll see. He is 38 years old, but I gotta imagine Asakura can just have the big moments in this fight. I don't think Elliott's grappling is gonna be do him, too amazing in this fight. I think Asakura is, gonna be wise to all that. He knows, okay, I gotta win this fight. Gotta kind of reinvent myself in this flyweight division. So give me Asakura by decision, but a knockout definitely isn't out of the picture considering Elliott's age. All right, moving on to middleweight, we got Jared Cannonier taking on Michael Venom Page. Sitting at minus 200, come back on Cannonier is plus 170. And listen, I think this is kind of a tailor-made fight for Paige. Obviously this guy's got the crazy, speed and accuracy with that combat karate style, and I think that's just gonna be a horrible matchup for Cannonier, who just at 41 years old, the chin is definitely not there anymore. The guy's got hurt bad at least 3 or 4 times in a row. I believe 4 times in a row in these fights. He's got hurt real bad with strikes. Some against guys that just aren't the most powerful. And Paige, as he hasn't really been able to find that power in the UFC just yet, he definitely does have it, right? He's like a coiled snake, right? That's why they call him Venom. And he's ready to use these huge strikes to his advantage. I could definitely see Kennedy run to something huge early on in this fight. Now, the issue for Paige maybe is the wrestling, right? Because he is just a 175er. He is moving up, or a 170 pounder, moving up to 185. So if Kennedy is able to get his hands on him and bring this fight to the ground, obviously that could be a problem for Paige. We know Kennedy has crazy ground and pound. Is a bit of a cardio demon in his own right, but I just got to go Paige here. This is a tailor-made matchup for him on the right side of the age equation for, I believe, the first time in his UFC tenure. And again, like I said, he's going to enjoy a healthy size advantage here, which he didn't enjoy against Shara Bullet and still dominated that fight. So, give me Paige. I think he actually wins it by early knockout here. But again, this could just be kind of a staring contest, and Paige just styles on this guy. But don't count out Cannonier. The reason the odds are not like minus 500, right? Cannonier is still a proven guy at this weight class. All right, next up at welterweight feature fight, we got Jeff Neal versus Carlos Protz. Protz sitting at minus 200. Neal is at plus 170. And listen, a lot of people are dogging on Protz for the last fight, but he was in it for all 5 rounds, right? And there's a lot of concerns with the cardio, smokes a million packs a day, but he was still there late in that fight. He had a knockdown in the 4th round, had Gary almost out of there in the 5th round. So, obviously, and I think that's just a different kind of stylistic matchup to Neal, right? Because Gary is the lengthy striker, has those kicks to kind of occupy Protz's lead hand. So, I think Neal isn't really going to have that necessarily that long striking and those kicks to kind of occupy Protz's power side. And I just think on the feet, Protz is going to be the more active striker. Just maybe with the jab hand, just kind of poking out that jab onto Neal. He's shown ability to find that off switch, and if he finds that off switch on Neal, I wouldn't be crazy surprised. And we have seen Neal tough it out, right? Only been knocked out once in his professional career, way back in the day on the regional scene versus Holland, but he definitely could implement a bit of grappling, and not grappling necessarily, but wrestling of his own, maybe just some cage control to kind of win back those minutes. But I do expect Protz to have the bigger moments in this fight. As I said, just probably the more active fighter at range. And I think the reach advantage is going to play a big factor in this fight. And it's just a matchup that definitely favors him. So I got to go Protz here. I think he should have the striking covered in Neal. I think he gets it done by knockout. But again, decision wouldn't be crazy. A double bet on knockout or decision is pretty safe for Protz in my opinion. All right, co-main event, we got newcomer Aaron Pico. He's taking on the number 6 Lerone Murphy at featherweight. Pico is the favorite at minus 180. Lerone Murphy sits at plus 155. And I'm very surprised the odds are the way they are. Not because I'm against Pico. It's because I see it so many people on Murphy. They see this guy from Bellator. There's been all the recent no Bellator success, right? We saw Pitbull's debut, and that was a shame. And then we saw Patchy Mix's debut, and that was even worse. And then Pitbull's last fight was a snoozer. And then everyone's like, oh, Bellator fade. The Bellator people are just cans, and no one from Bellator is good. But Pico is going to be a lot of people's favorite fighter comes soon, because this guy is good, right? I think Olympic level wrestler, in my opinion, very, very high level wrestler. But he's mixing that striking, right? You see, 4 losses. Oh my God, this guy lost to 4 Bellator cans. But, this is early on in his career. This guy was the golden boy for Bellator. This guy was fresh out of high school and was already getting thrown in the cage against these guys. And you see a lot of these losses are against guys that, are, just more experienced with him at that level. He's sitting there 20, 21 years old, professional mixed martial arts fights in Bellator, and that was especially a big deal back in the day. And of course the fourth loss, which is a few years ago, was injury. So it's not really a legitimate loss. And I just think Pico is definitely just going to be maybe just a little bit sharper everywhere, in my opinion. I think now I'm not discrediting Murphy because he's proven me wrong so many times. I picked against this guy, I think 3 times in a row. I picked against this guy. I picked Barbosa against him. And obviously, he had him hurt in that first round. He was able to tough that out and really take over and kind of dominate that fight. I picked Ige against Murphy, and he had him hurt bad. And then I picked Emmett against Murphy, and he had the wrestling success. But again, Murphy just knows how to win these fights. He knows how to win. He's a winner, and that's why he's 16-0-1. Is because he takes over with the striking, right? And I could definitely see him taking over late with the striking. But I just think the wrestling, overall wrestling, is going to be a huge step up in Pico's favor, combined with the fact that he could be able to bonk Murphy here. Murphy has been a guy, like I said, got hurt a few times, able to survive, but obviously Pico does have a lot of power. So I am going to pick Pico, decently confident in him, actually. There's a lot of people picking Murphy, but I think I'm going to side with the minus 180 favorite here. I got Pico to win this fight by decision, but I mean, again, of course, this is the UFC, and Murphy winning wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. All right, main event time. This is the fight a lot of people are excited about, including myself. Should be a really, really good fight. Dricus du Plessis taking on Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev is a touted favorite at minus 250. Comeback on du Plessis is at plus 210. And I think the main thing that people are looking at this fight is Khamzat has to get a win in the first or second round, or this guy's screwed, right? This guy's cardio not good. Dricus is still be the better striker, but I kind of want to challenge that, especially the striking aspect, because I think Chimaev is very underrated striking, in my opinion. I don't think if this stands on the feet for like more than a round, this guy's screwed, right? Obviously, Dricus is like a cardio demon at this point, so obviously, I don't think Chimaev's cardio is necessarily bad because he has shown in those Burns fights he toughed out those spots. He didn't go all in for the wrestling, and as you saw, he was able to win a later round. Obviously, against Usman, he did go all out for the finish, but then was able to kind of pace himself in that second and third round and win that fight. And then we saw against Whitaker, we saw a bit more calculated approach on the ground from Chimaev. Wasn't constantly going mat return, mat return, mat return. Was kind of staying on the back, kind of waiting for Whitaker to explode, then mat returning, and then trying to climb the back to get that submission. And I just think Dricus just hasn't fought a guy with this level of wrestling as Chimaev, right? He's fighting guys, Whitaker, Strickland, and Adesanya, who are well-rounded dudes, but Chimaev is just a different beast on the ground. Like, this guy's wrestling is absolutely incredible. I have no doubt he'll be able to ground du Plessis within a minute, and from there it's just, can du Plessis survive? And even if he does survive, in my opinion, I think Chimaev can have success in the striking to kind of bank these early rounds. We've seen du Plessis get super sloppy on the feet, and I think Chimaev is very, very tense. Not necessarily comfortable on the feet, but he's calculated. He knows what he's doing on the feet. So I think people aren't giving Chimaev enough credit for his overall well-rounded mixed martial arts game. I think I was initially going to pick du Plessis because of that reason, right? This guy is a cardio demon. He can do it everywhere. He's a good grappler in his own right, but I got to go Chimaev here. The more I'm looking at this fight, I'm thinking that Chimaev is going to have this dude covered in a lot more places than people think. I think it's done by submission, but I think it's done by like third round. I think he can maybe even land takedowns later in this fight. Again, not that same kind of pop as he does in the first round, but I think again people gave it a lot, not a lot of credit for Chimaev's. I think improved cardio in this fight. So give me Chimaev to win this fight by submission. Again, like I said, I was on Dricus for a while, so him winning would definitely not be out of the question. But that is the end of the breakdown. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, I'm going to try to get a recap video done on this probably on Sunday, and then we'll have the Shanghai video out probably by Tuesday or Wednesday. But yeah, that is the end of the breakdown. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button. We're trying to get probably to 100 by the end of the year, and yeah, thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed.